Okay, I think I'm rolling. It is Friday night. Welcome back to the man cave. I had to do a little surgery on this laptop that I'm using this week. We replaced the battery in it. It's an older laptop, but it's in really good shape. Really does a good job, but the battery was shot in it. So I took my fat fingers and did some surgery. Put a new battery in it. It's working really well now. So we'll see how that goes. The new webcam's working pretty good. But it is Friday, and I'm not going to ramble. I'm going to try to do a better job of staying on topic. My last two podcasts or my last two live streams here have gone really long. Hey Tyler, hey Kayla, I see you guys with us down here. Uh, Quick little story. Back in early December, I remember exactly when. Uh, I had a gentleman in the live stream. He made a comment something about the whiskey that I was drinking, and he said something along the lines if I wanted to know some stuff about real whiskey, and I didn't think twice about it. And this past week, I was in Facebook. I was in my instant messenger, and it had been a long time since I had gone to look at my message requests and my spam folder to see if there was anything in there I needed to deal with. And I found in my spam folder from December the 5th a couple of really intriguing voice messages from a gentleman named Alan Brown. And Alan, I'd like to thank you for sending me those comments. But Alan's from a unique place in the world. He's from Orkney, which is an island just off the northern coast of Scotland. And so he lives in the epicenter of some of the world's best whiskeys. There's no arguing that point. Scotch whiskey and Irish whiskeys are different than American whiskeys and American bourbons. But Alan recommended. He said there's two distilleries on the island that he lives on, and he told me the first one was called Highland Park, and the second one was called Scapa. And so I decided to make a quick trip out to my local store to see if I could find either of these, and they had the Highland Park, or they had one variety of the Highland Park, which is this. It's called Highland Park 12-year-old Viking Honor, and I looked on their website, and this is Highland Park's entry level whiskey. It's not one of their higher end ones, but still here it's kind of pricey. This was a $60 bottle, which is not really cheap. So this is what we're having tonight, based on Alan's recommendation. And I've already had a glass of this to taste it, and it's very good. It is it's a very typical, well, I won't say typical Scotch whiskey. It has this typical profile and flavor of Scotch whiskey, and it has this beautiful, beautiful sweet aroma. The aroma that you have here is the honey. It smells like honey, and you can smell the smoked peat as well. And these single malt whiskeys, what makes these so different from the American counterparts are the single malt that's used to make these is malted barley, and that malted barley smoked with the peat that is usually local to the distillery where these are made, and those characteristics, that sweet aroma and that smokiness, you can smell that on the nose immediately, and it's unique. Nothing that they make here has that characteristic, but that's one of the differentiating things between Scotch whiskey and American whiskey. Jeff's with us tonight. I think Jeff said he was having some whiskey with us. Ed, Sharon's in the house. Yeah, and Luca's with us. And Luca knows the difference between whiskey and whiskey. It's in Scotch whiskey and Irish whiskey, it's spelled Whisky. And when you cross the pond to here, they throw an E in there. It's Whiskey. So anytime you see them spell one way or the other, you'll know what they're talking about by how it was spelled. Randy, welcome aboard. Mike. So yeah, this is what I'm having tonight, and this is a big cheers to Alan Brown for turning me on to this. This is good. So Paul, you're drinking one of my favorites. That Single Barrel Select is still tops with me. I'm probably going to have that next week. I'm going to have that more regularly in the rotation. Right now, that is my favorite whiskey, and I'm a real big fan of this Eagle Rare from Buffalo Trace. So that's where we are tonight. So if you're having a drink with me, leave me a note in the comments. Tell me what you're having. So tonight I want to get on into what I said we were going to talk about. I want to talk about cast iron tonight. And one of the reasons this came to mind today as I was trying to come up with a gadget. I'm running out of gadgets. So I'm going to talk about cast iron tonight, and I'm going to show you one of the newer pieces that I have. This is a 9 by 13 inch baking dish from Lodge. This is new. This is a new product from their new bakeware line, and I use 9 by 13 dishes for a lot of things for baking, and I've used this one twice this week. I cooked in it last night, and I cooked in it the night before. And this thing comes with a factory seasoning on it it's really incredibly done. Nothing's sticking inside this pan, and it's this pan's not overly thick. I don't really know how to describe it. It's thinner. It's thinner than most of their cast iron pans, which allows this thing to heat and allows it to cook very evenly. So this is kind of the gadget. When I bought this, when they introduced their new line of bakeware, I bought this pan, and I bought another one that I'll show you later because I'm going to cook a video. I'm going to do a video with the other one, but the other one's it's bigger than this, but it's only got like a 1-inch high wall around it, and it's going to be perfect. You could actually use it as a small griddle, but I'm going to do focaccia in that other one. And they also introduced in that same line some new loaf pans. So I bought that 9 by 13 pan. I bought the bigger one, which I think is a 10 by 14 or maybe 10 by 15. And then I bought these loaf pans as well. I bought 2 of these for bread. These are larger than the loaf pans they had. Their previous loaf pans were 4 by 8, and these are like 5 by 9. They're the larger size, and this is the size loaf pan I like to use. So just so you'll be aware, if you like Lodge cast iron, they've got some new product out. And in that same bakeware line, they've got a pie pan, and I don't remember. Oh, they've got a new wedge cornbread wheel and a new cornbread pan that's got the little corn ear shaped divots in it for making shaped cornbread. Those are the things I remember specifically that are in this new bakeware line. So yeah, I've cooked loaves in these. I've cooked quite a few things in these loaf pans already. So that's the gadget entry for tonight. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the lodge. But when I got to thinking about that, I said, yeah, let's have a talk about cast iron, because there's two aspects of cast iron I want to talk about. I want to talk about grilling components that are made of cast iron, and then I want to talk some more about some cast iron cookware. Most of you guys are Kamado owners, and most of you, I don't know if most of you have the cast iron components or not, but Kamado Joe and Big Green Egg and a lot of the other manufacturers have cast iron grill grates that are available for those Kamados. And Kamado Joe has the cast iron griddle, the reversible griddle as well. And thinking about that, it made me realize there's two different care and use practices for cast iron. The cast iron grill grates that you use on your grill, you don't have to treat them the same way you treat something you're going to cook in on your stovetop, like a cast iron skillet or one of these baking dishes. I put together some video content a long time ago about seasoning that cast iron, and it's really, when it comes to your grill, it's really not necessary. Most of the grill pieces that you buy these days come pre-seasoned, and they have a seasoning on them similar to what comes on these Lodge pieces when you buy the new Lodge cast iron cookware. I don't know what that seasoning's made of or how it's done, but it's adequate for the job. A cast iron grill grate, the reason you don't need to worry about the seasoning on it is because typically, if you're like me, when you're going to use a cast iron grill grate, you're going to be cooking hot. You're going to be cooking a steak, or you're going to be searing something over relatively high temperature. And no matter what kind of seasoning job you do on those cast iron pieces, it's going to burn off. It's going to at least burn off on the bottom, the side that's facing the fire, because it's going to be hot enough that it will totally ruin any kind of seasoning you've put on there. I've experimented with this. I have seasoned my cast iron grates with about every technique you can imagine. I've used the Crisco technique, which I'm going to talk about tonight, which is my preferred method. But I have also done the flaxseed oil. The flaxseed oil makes a different type of seasoning, and it's very good, but it's still not good enough to hold up to the flame and the high temperature that you're going to expose it to when you put it on the grill. So, that being said, with your cast iron grilling components, all you really need to do with those things when you get them, I like to wash anything that's new when I get it. I don't know that it really matters on cast iron, but I wash it with soap and water initially, and then I'm going to dry it off, and then I'm going to put it on the grill and heat it up. So cook on it. And there's a couple of rules. I'm going to call these rules. You can call them whatever you like. They may be a guideline or something you sweep under the rug. But I like to do my cooking. And let's see, if I'm cooking a steak or a set of steaks, those steaks need to rest for a couple of minutes before I serve them after I take them off the grill. So the very first thing that happens, without fail, when I pull those steaks off the grill, I set them aside in whatever pan or tray I'm going to carry them back in the house on. I get my grill brush and I brush down that cast iron right then. You don't wait. Nothing good's going to come from waiting to clean up that cast iron. You can use whatever kind of grill brush you prefer, but I use the metal wire bristle ones, and I prefer the Weber brand actually. That they seem to hold up better and last better than anything else I use. And I get all the crud that I can off of it right there while it's hot, because that's when it's going to come off the easiest. It's not going to burn on there. The longer you leave it on there while your grill's cooling, it's going to carbonize even more, and it's going to be even harder to get off when it cools. So get that brush out and at least hit it fairly well right away. Don't wait on it. So that helps you keep it clean. The griddle is the same way. If you're using the griddle on the smooth side, use a spatula, use a metal spatula, and get all that you can get off of it done right then. Don't wait. Do it right that minute, and you'll get most of it off. Hey, Jimmy, good to have you with us tonight too. Jimmy and William and George, welcome aboard. So after you've cooked, after you've brushed off all the crud that you can get off, you got to let the grill cool. You got to let the cast iron cool. Generally what I do at that point is after I've cleaned it, if I'm happy with how clean it is, I'll just close up the vents on my grill and let the fire go out and let it cool. If I have time to do it that night, I'll go get the cast iron off the grill after it's completely cooled. If not, I do it within 12 hours or within 24 hours tops, because, like I said, we've probably burned the seasoning off of that. If I haven't burned the seasoning off of it, great. It can stay a little longer, but if I have burned the seasoning off of it, it's going to start rusting right away. So I like to get mine off. I keep cooking spray on hand, like Pam or some generic variant of that. I pull that cold grate off, I spray it down with cooking spray, and I put the cast iron piece in a plastic bag and fold it and store it wherever I've chosen to store those cast iron pieces. And then it's not going to rust. You don't have to worry about it being seasoned per se. You just need to have oil on it. If you spray it down with oil, it's going to be fine. One thing, if you can make it happen, that works even better is if you can get that cooking spray on it while it's still fairly warm and not hot, you're even better off. So after the grill's had a little bit of time to cool, it's a good practice to go ahead and spray some cooking spray on it while it's warm, because as it cools, cast iron is porous, and as it cools, it's going to kind of pull some of that oil just into the iron a little bit. It's going to hold on to it better if it cools while it's got oil on it. But don't worry about seasoning. This isn't Grandma's cast iron. This is your grill grate, and seasoning it is a waste of time and effort, because, like I said, you're just going to burn it off. So that's how I take care of the cast iron pieces that I use on my grill. Don't worry about seasoning. You just have to keep it clean, brush it off, and keep it oiled, and it'll be fine. The only time cast iron gives you a problem on the grill is when you neglect it. It does take extra effort to maintain that cast iron. If you don't think that extra effort is something you want to take, you should stick with stainless steel. Don't even bother with the iron. This is really good. Okay, that being said, if you have any questions about cast iron that you're using on your grill that I haven't talked about here, leave me a comment. If I see it, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, I'll come back and answer these questions after the live stream. Now, cast iron cookware is a different story. I treat my cast iron cookware entirely differently. Getting a good seasoning on that to start with is important. And like I said, this Lodge stuff, I don't know what it is, but it comes with a really good seasoning on it. I don't really feel compelled to do any additional work to the Lodge. This is another Lodge piece that I have that I really like. It's a round pan that doesn't have a long handle on one side. And the reason I like these guys is because they fit nicely on my grill. I've got two sizes of this. I've got this 10-inch one, and I've got a 12-inch one. And they make one that's even bigger that I don't have. But on my rack over there, I have the great big Smithy cast iron 14-inch pan that's like this, that's got no handles on it. These guys work on your grill better because you don't have to offset it to one side to deal with like a skillet handle. But I just wanted to show you those and make you aware that those are available also. Those are available from multiple sources, not just Lodge, but I think the Lodge ones are relatively inexpensive. In terms of high-end cast iron, I'm kind of a fan of these pieces made by a company called Finex. These are made here in the United States, made in Portland, Oregon. Really, really super good quality cast iron. I like these handles on these. These don't get hot as quickly, but when they do get hot, they're blazing hot. But this is one of the types of cast iron pan that I use. Anthony says he lives 20 minutes from the Lodge Foundry. He says that's good and bad. Well, Anthony, my wife and I stopped by there when we were over in Tennessee in October on our little road trip, and I'm trying to remember what piece. Oh, I bought those loaf pans. These new loaf pans from the bakeware set. I bought those at the South Pittsburgh showroom. These guys right here. I got 2 of these when I stopped in there, and yeah, I know how you feel. There's a Lodge outlet store that's got that same sort of stuff in Charlotte, about an hour away from here, and I visit there occasionally. And Colin's asking me about any recommendations for a cast iron sauce pot. No, if you're talking about like a 2 or a 3-quart pot, I don't have any recommendations. I have one, but I don't have it out. Well, now that you've mentioned it, let me grab it. I have a piece here that Lodge doesn't make anymore, but this is sort of what you're talking about. This is maybe, I don't know, this is 2.5 or 3 quarts, but what this is not really a saucepan, even though you could use it for that. This is a deep fryer. This guy came with a deep fry basket, and that's what that thing works. And I love this thing, and I bought this. I've had this for well over 20 years, and I went back to look for one several years back. I was going to give one as a gift, and then I found out that Lodge has discontinued this. Lodge now sells basket inserts that fit in their Dutch ovens instead of doing this, and I really hate it because I think that's cool and that would serve your purpose, but I don't know a lot of people, I don't know of anybody right off the top of my head that makes cast iron saucepans. You just have to get online and search. So, I don't know really what to tell you on that. I wouldn't like it as a saucepan. I prefer stainless steel when it comes to saucepans because when I'm making, if I'm just cooking soup or something in it, it doesn't matter. But if I'm making a sauce, the last thing you want to do is have a dark pan because you can't tell how your color's developing when you use something like that. So I don't really know the best answer to that. But when these Finex pans came out, I decided that I like these, and the main thing I like about these Finex pans is I just like the look. They're unique. I like the octagon shape, and I love this handle on these guys. They're really beautiful. These pans are really expensive though. They're not very economical, but they're amazing. I use these pans for a specific type of cooking, and it's basically if I'm baking. I don't use this pan on the stovetop, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit also. This pan's heavy. This pan is really heavy compared to a lot of other pans this same size. This is the 8-inch, I've got the 10-inch version of this, and I've got the 12-inch version of this, and I also have the Finex Dutch oven. And you've probably seen each of these used in videos here and there. But this pan, I don't know how well you can tell here. This pan's developing its seasoning. It takes some time. This particular pan, I haven't cooked in enough to really get a full seasoning into it, but it's getting there. It's getting more and more every time I cook on it, and it does real well. But I make cornbread in this pan. I'll make cobblers in this pan. I'll do all kinds of things, but like I said, I don't use this pan so much on the stove top. But this pan I like. I really do. And Atlanta Grill Company also sells these, and I see Jeff's talking about Smithy pans. Atlanta Grill Company sells Smithy as well, and the only Smithy pan I have so far is that big 14-inch one. But the Lodge, or I'm sorry, the Finex I like. Smithy's got a couple other ones I like too, but before I get too far off the rails here, I want to talk about seasoning these pans. These pans I do like to season when I first get them. The Finex pan's a little different, and the Smithy pan's a little different in the same way. Those guys come with a seasoning that's pretty good to start with. They do have flaxseed oil seasonings on them that are very good. I don't really feel compelled to strip those and re-season them, but you can. Flaxseed oil, I guess I've only got 2 complaints about flaxseed oil. The first complaint I have about it is it's expensive. It's not game-changing expensive, but it is expensive compared to Crisco, which is what I like to use. And the theory behind using flaxseed oil to season your cast irons, the flaxseed oil has a really low smoke point. If I remember correctly, the smoke point for flaxseed oil is somewhere between 225 and 250 Fahrenheit, which is low. And the theory there is that you put a really thin smear of flaxseed oil on that pan, and then you put the pan in your oven at 400 or 450, where you're going way past the smoke point, and it polymerizes that oil onto the surface of the pan, and it really creates a really nice bond, a really nice cooking surface. The only problem with it is if you want to season with flaxseed oil, the pan's got to be stripped completely first, because that flaxseed oil won't set up on top of any other seasoning that's already in the pan. You need to start that from scratch, or start with a pan that has already been seasoned with flaxseed oil. I like to use Crisco, and what I do is I'll warm my pan up. I'll put it in the oven at 250 for about 30 minutes, and that gets the pan good and warm. And then I'll pull it out, and I'll have a high heat glove on one hand to hold the pan, and then I'll use a folded paper towel on the other hand, and I'll smear Crisco onto the towel and smear Crisco all into the pan while the pan's hot. And then I'll let the pan cool a good bit more, and then I'll take some clean paper towels and get all the Crisco that I can back off of the pan. Just get it where it's just minimal Crisco on the pan, and then I put that pan in my oven at 500 degrees for an hour. And I repeat that process 4 or 5 times on a brand new pan, like a Lodge, or like some of the Lodges that I've done in the past. And it puts a perfect seasoning on. It holds up as good as anything I've ever used. I meant to say the second thing I didn't like about flaxseed oil is it stinks. It smells up my house when I'm using it. Crisco doesn't, so I like that. And Scott Harmon's saying, what about beef tallow? I've not tried seasoning any of my cookware with beef tallow, but I seasoned my cast iron griddle that's on my Blackstone outside. I seasoned it with beef tallow, and it's perfect. It gives you about the same results that you get from Crisco. Don't have any complaints about that. So And once that pan is seasoned, you should never have to re-season it unless uh, there's a couple of things that might cause you to have to re-season the pan. And I'll talk about that because I want to talk about Dutch ovens too. I like cooking in Dutch ovens. I've got several cast iron Dutch ovens, but I've also got several enameled cast iron Dutch ovens. And before I start there, Paul Saunders is asking me about Crisbee. Crisbee is a seasoning tool that you can buy, and I bought some to try it out because I heard nothing but good stuff about it. And for the price of that stuff, feel free to buy it if that's what you like. But Crisbee works no better. The results I got with Crisbee were no better than what I get with Crisco. I guess the advantage of the Crisbee might be is you can buy that and that has aromas on it where it doesn't smell bad when you're burning it off at 500 degrees. They've got one that smells like apple pie or something, but I wasn't a big fan of the Crisbee simply because it was very, very expensive in the greater scheme of things. But yeah, it works. It does work. I didn't have any problems with how well it worked. The only problem I had was how much I paid for it. So it's good stuff. Kevin's always used Crisco. He says he sounds like I've had a few. I haven't had a few. I'm still working on my first one. This will be my only one. I only have one. I don't ever drink more than one. And Tim Stevens says our tomato-based food's hard on the seasoning, and that's what I'm getting to with the Dutch ovens. They can be. Not just tomato, anything that's acidic. I had a Lodge. It was one of my it was a 5-quart Lodge cast iron Dutch oven that I had been using for years. Had a good seasoning on it. And I decided I was going to cook a pot of chili in that thing and let it simmer all day. And I did, and I had some great chili. But that cast iron below the chili line in that pan, when I was done with it, that cast iron pan looked like a shiny new nickel. All my seasoning was gone. I had to re-season that pan, or re-season that Dutch oven. And this is why I like enameled cast iron Dutch ovens better than bare. I cannot think of any reason, and if you have a reason, please tell me what it is because I'd love to know. But enameled cast iron Dutch ovens, that's the way to go. You get all the good even heating properties of cooking with cast iron with none of the worries about having to maintain it, having to season it, having to clean it, oil it, keep it dry. It's just I've got two enameled cast iron Dutch ovens at the moment. I have a Staub 4-quart one that my wife got me for Christmas a few years back, and I have another Lodge. I have a Lodge 5-quart, and I use those whenever I can. The only drawback with the enameled cast iron is when you put it on your grill or your smoker, it gets dirty. It does, and it won't just wipe off. You're going to have to use a little elbow grease to clean it. Or you can just not clean it. The ones I use on my grill, I typically don't spend a lot of time worrying about what the outside of it looks like. I just make sure my inside's clean where the food is. I don't want that to get cruddy, but the enameled cast iron is fine. I've got a small enameled cast iron sauce pot. I know somebody asked about the sauce pot earlier. It's a very small 1-quart. I think it's a 1-quart, and unfortunately they don't make this one anymore. It's a Le Creuset that's got a wooden handle and a pour spout on it. It's an enameled. I should have had that one out here to show too. It's over there on my shelf somewhere, but they don't make it anymore. I don't know why they've quit making sauce pots, but the enamel cast iron, I've got no fear, no shame, or no problem using that whatsoever. Yes, Tim, you're correct. You do not want to use enameled cast iron over fire. Those have heat limits that the bare cast iron doesn't. They'll tell you to keep it under 500 degrees and don't expose it to direct flame. And I would agree with that. And when I'm cooking with a Dutch oven, there are no instances that I can think of where I would ever have it exposed to direct flame or have the temperature up anywhere near 500 degrees. When I'm using a Dutch oven, I'm slow cooking, and I never have my grill up over 250 or 275 when I'm using that, and I'm using it over indirect heat. So I'm staying within the parameters, and I've never had any problems with any of that. And yeah, it would be the same as lump charcoal. Cooking over a charcoal fire, that's the same thing, but I've got a heat deflector between my Dutch oven and the fire, so there's not a problem there. So yeah, I've got lots of cast iron. I've got the Dutch ovens, and in my cooking videos, I've done a lot. I've got another unique cast iron pan. It's made by a company called Grizzly. And I think, if I remember correctly, Grizzly's based here in North Carolina. It is a nickel plated. It's nickel plated. Let me grab that and show you the Grizzly. This one's a little dusty. It's been sitting around. I haven't used it in a while, but this is a nickel-plated cast iron pan. If you want a cast iron pan that you can cook on and then throw it in the dishwasher, here it is. And these are expensive also. I feel bad about what I paid for this. I don't remember exactly what I paid for it, but I know I did pay a good bit for it. But that pan, they make this in two sizes also, and this pan's really heavy. This is a 10-inch pan. This is the heaviest 10-inch pan that I have. I think I remember doing a weight comparison, and this guy weighs in at over 7 pounds for a 10-inch
pan. So that's one you got to be careful with. But this one, if you want all the cooking benefits of cast iron and don't want to worry any about maintaining it, this is your guy. You can't hurt this pan. You can leave this pan outside in the sun and the rain, and it's not going to rust. It's not going to fail you in any way. But there's a price to be paid for that. So Kevin says, have you seen the guy that polishes cast iron to a mirror shine? Yeah, I've seen a lot of people do that, and I've experimented with it myself. I don't like it. Those pans are very they don't hold seasonings well. And that's one of the other reasons, like my Finex, it's taken this Finex pan a lot longer to get the seasoning going for the same reason. And my Smithy's the same way. That seasoning that I get from cooking on it takes a lot longer to form on these pans that have these mirror shiny finishes. This Finex, when it was brand new, it was like that. It has a mirror smooth finish in there, and it's beautiful. It really is, but it takes it a lot longer to develop its seasoning because of that. The Lodge stuff is textured. You know, Lodge is on to something there. Their seasonings stay on better because of that. I don't know why, but I guess we as a consumer, we've determined that we need smooth and shiny cast iron, and that's better than the cheap Lodge. It looks nice, but it's got its drawbacks. It's not always advantageous. Now, Smithy, I don't have Smithy pans to show you because I haven't bought the Smithy pieces yet that I would like to have. Smithy's got two skillets that I want, that the edges on them, instead of being sharp like this, they're smooth. They have rounded edges where you can actually flip food in them. And I want to get the 8-inch and the 10-inch version of those pans. I don't have those yet. But when I get them, those will be stovetop pans. I won't use them on the grill or in the in the wood-fired oven. I've got some specific pans I like to use when I'm cooking on my stovetop that are cast iron, and unfortunately, they are the antique stuff. This is a Griswold. This is a Griswold number 3, which is, I don't know, this is a 6-inch. This is one of my smaller ones. I've got a number 3, a number 5, and a number 8 that I've bought off of eBay, and I've restored these myself. This one's in particularly nice shape. These don't come cheap, but they still come cheaper than stuff like the Finex. This pan, if you shop around and wait for the right one to come about on eBay, you can get a number 3 like this for $40 or $50. And if you're willing to put in a little effort to restore it yourself, you might even get it for less. The people that are selling these antiques on eBay, they're restoring them, and they know what they're worth, and they're getting top dollar for them. I'm looking for 2 more for some other reasons, and they're expensive. That number 8's going to cost me, unless I can find one that's in horrible shape that's salvageable, it's going to cost me $100 or better to get one, but I want it. The reason I like this pan, these large block logo Griswold pans, if I remember correctly, these guys are made between, or this one's different. This one has what's called the heat ring on it. These pans were made between 1920 and 1930. So this pan could be, right at 100 years old, or somewhere between 90 and 100 years old right now. The ones that have the smooth bottom on them were made between 1930 and 1940, if I remember correctly. I like the smooth bottom ones better because I'm not cooking on a gas burner stove. If I was cooking on a gas burner stove, this would be fine. I like the smooth bottom ones because I'm on a contact stove down here in the man cave. My wife's stove upstairs is induction, so it doesn't matter. This works great on an induction cooktop also, but I like these pans because they're thinner and they're lighter. And that has 2 advantages. Number 1, it's lightweight, it's easier to handle, and it heats quickly. It heats a lot more quickly than this guy. This guy is super slow to heat up on a stovetop, unless you're cooking on gas, which I don't want to hear it. I don't have it. I don't think I'm ever going to have it in this house. So we have gas, but we don't have gas appliances. So what you decide to buy, if you're going to buy cast iron, you have to figure out why you want it and then pick the right pan. Beth says, I missed the reason you wouldn't use the same pan on the stove and the grill. I could use the pans that I like on the stovetop on my grill. I could do that, but I'm doing 2 different types of cooking. There's certain types of cooking that I don't do on my grill. I don't do saute on the grill. I'm going to do some coming here in the future, but it's not the best setup for doing saute. I don't do stir fry or something on the grill. I use the thinner pans on the stovetop simply because they heat faster, and they heat just as evenly as the large ones, but they do heat faster, and they're just easier to use because they're lightweight. They heat quickly. They heat evenly. But yeah, I have a hard time recommending cast iron because, or wait, let me rephrase that. I don't have a hard time recommending cast iron. I have a hard time recommending specific brands of cast iron because all of it works. The inexpensive Lodge works fine. The antique Griswold works fine. The newer, Finex, this stuff works fine. It all works. It all boils down to a matter of preference as to what you should have. If you want pans that are strikingly beautiful. When you look at them, you want to have a look at these pans like the Finex, like Smithy, Butterfield. Somebody help me out. Who are some of these other newer manufacturers of cast iron that make heirloom quality pans? There's Butter Pat, not Butterfield. It's called Butter Pat, Finex, Smithy, and I know there's a couple more. Uh, but cast iron is timeless. You can't, well, I'm not going to say you can't ruin these pans. If you give them any care and love at all, they're going to last you forever. Uh, like this pan right here, like I said, this pan's probably 100 years old. It's 90 to 100 years old, and I cook in this pan all the time. This is a perfect 1 or 2 egg pan. If I want to saute 1 chicken breast, right here it is. This is like a 6-inch pan. It's perfect. It's beautiful, and this one probably gets more mileage on my stovetop than any other pan I've got. And I've got a bunch. In fact, I've got so much cast iron right now, I'm getting ready to sort through it, and I'm going to pare my collection down by about half. I'm going to take a bunch of stuff that I have that I don't use and take it up to the thrift shop up here in town that sells and raises money for the local hospice organization. And Matt says, get on the cast iron groups on Facebook. Yeah, I have a BSR pan. I don't have a sauce pot, but I do have one of the BSR pans here, and they're newer, but they're just like these Griswolds in terms of being lightweight and thin. They're easy to use. I like the only reason I care about Griswold is I think that's a cool looking logo on the pan. That to me is worth that's what kind of makes this pan sort of collectible in my mind. It makes this pan more appealing to me. So I just like the way it looks. But there's a reason. There's a reason I like that. There's other stuff out there that's not as pretty as that, but it's still, antique. It works really well. And yeah, I like the cast iron loaf pans. Those make beautiful loaves of bread. One of the things that makes those work well for bread is they heat a little slowly, and you don't have to worry about the crust on your bread loaf getting too done when you're cooking it in cast iron, because it heats slowly enough that it doesn't do that. The thing about it is you can't leave your bread in there as long after you take it out of the oven, because it does maintain its heat. Cast iron pans are great for serving on your table. You can keep something in a cast iron pan, bring it to the table, set it on a trivet, and that pan helps keep it warm longer because it does have a heat retention, and it's got a thermal mass that stainless steel doesn't have, and it's just good stuff. Mike says, have you ever done lead testing on any old pans you've refurbished? Yeah, no, I haven't. I've not seen one. I've seen that come up, and the reason it comes up is because there are a lot of people that are into reloading firearms that use cast iron to melt down like linotype lead from print shops to cast their bullets. I've not done that. Those pans typically have indicators on them that you can see that indicate that pan needs to be looked at, because you have to get those pans get really hot when they've got molten lead in them. But yeah, that's an issue. If you have to look for it. So that's probably about all I wanted to talk about on terms of cast iron. I wanted to talk about the different kinds of pans that I have, what I use them for, and how I take care of them. My pans that I cook in, whether it be on the grill or on the stove top, when I am finished cooking, I scrape these out. I've got a couple of different ways I might approach cleaning one of these after I've cooked in it. I've got some of the plastic. A lot of times when the pan's well seasoned enough, all I've got to do is take a dry paper towel and wipe it out, and I can get all the food particles out of the pan. If there's something in there that's stubborn, I've got some plastic scrapers that are Lodge branded. I've also got a stiff bristle brush, and I've got a chainmail sponge that I can use to get any crud out of there. I just use hot water. You can use soap in this if you want. There's no rule that says you can't do that. It's not going to strip a well-seasoned pan. I just don't put it in there if I don't have to. If I think I need soap, I just use a little extra elbow grease. But once I've got the pan clean, there's another step you need to follow. You need to dry it off with a towel or paper towels. And I'll either put this back on the burner on a stovetop for a couple of minutes and heat it up to get it good and dry to make sure all the moisture's evaporated off. And if I can't put it on the stovetop, I'll toss it in the oven for a few minutes and let it warm up and let it dry. And once I've done that, I spray it with a very quick puff of cooking spray. I wipe that on with a paper towel and then put it away, and then I don't have to worry about it rusting. The best thing you can do for your cast irons, use it frequently. Cast iron that is used frequently requires less maintenance. Cast iron that's sitting around is the stuff that's going to rust on you. So Sharon says she's got a cast iron bump pan. Yeah, I've seen those, and I have one. Lodge recently, I can't remember what Lodge calls it. They reintroduce some of their old stuff periodically, and I guess about a year ago, or maybe even longer, I was at the Lodge shop in Charlotte. Something's in my eye. I apologize. My eye's burning. It's giving me trouble. And it's they reintroduced their bump pan, and I bought one, and I really like cooking in it. That guy's a bear to clean though. It's kind of difficult to clean that pan, but I love it. I've made pound cakes in it, and it makes a beautiful pound cake. Dadgum. Sorry, I got something that's causing my eye to burn. And no, it's not the whiskey. So, uh, but that's really about all I've got on the cast iron. If you got any questions about it, yeah. I will come through here and run these questions down after the fact and answer everybody's questions that I've missed so far. I had fun last week with Darren Wilson on here. I'm going to have some more guests. I actually am trying to get my wife to come on with me. We talked about that tonight. I think my wife might come on with me sometime here soon. I'm not real sure how that's going to go. I'm not real sure what we're going to talk about, but we'll bring her on, and I'll let you meet my wife. You guys, most of you haven't had the opportunity to meet my wife. I know some of you that I've met face to face have met my wife. She's been to Atlanta Grill Company with me on a couple occasions, and she's met some of y'all. We've had dinner together, and what I want to do is once I get a situation set up where I'm going to have multiple guests on here with me, I'm going to have my wife on to kind of help me keep up with what's going on. My wife she's going to become my technical support. She's helping me do some testing with live streaming using this Facebook and using Zoom, and we'll see how that goes. So I hope everybody's got a nice weekend full of cooking planned. I got to go back. I work on the weekends. I work a real job, so I'm going back to the COVID pits tomorrow night and Sunday night. The cooking I did this week, I took it fairly easy this week in terms of grilling. I made one video that I published today. That's the Brunswick Stew, and man, that Brunswick Stew is really delicious. The Brunswick Stew, I made it with pulled pork And I usually like to make it with half chicken, half pork, but I had plenty of pulled pork, so I made it. If you guys haven't seen that video, you should go check it out. And if you've never tried Brunswick Stew, you should try it and you should make this. Next week, I haven't quite sorted out yet. I was at Publix today, and Publix had some really nice looking trout, whole trout in there. And I might get the seafood project rolling next week. If they've still got those trout, we might smoke a trout next week. I think that might be fun. Mike wants to know if I have any preference between my Anova Precision Oven and the Breville. I haven't got enough experience on the Anova yet to answer that question. I made a loaf of bread in the Anova this week, and that's the main reason I bought the Anovas, because I think I can up my bread game with that. And I messed up the bread loaf when I was putting it in the oven. I didn't have enough semolina flour on my peel, and I managed to snag the loaf as it was coming off. And this dough was just ever so slightly overproofed by the time I got it to the oven. And my loaf, my boule, I had done it in a banneton, and it looked good. My boule deflated when I put it on the stone, but I decided to go ahead and cook it. The flavor was good. The texture of the crust was good. So that aspect's looking good. I'm hopefully going to try that again this coming week. So I'm not really going to be in a position to compare the two ovens, because I firmly believe that the Anova Precision Oven will probably do everything that my Breville will do, plus it'll give you the steam option. If you're not interested in the steam option, the Breville's the way to go. I cooked in the Breville tonight. I made some baked potatoes to go with the New York strips that we had, and I cooked them in the Breville. And it's tough. I can't make that call yet. The Breville oven was $3.99 and the Anova was $5.99. There's a $200 additional cost to get the steam functions, but beyond the steam, I don't really think the Breville or the Anova has any advantage over this Breville. It might, but I really don't think it does. Anthony's going to Atlanta Grill Company tomorrow to get a rock box. Well, I'll tell you one thing, you're going to have some fun making pizzas with that guy. Atlanta Grill Company, if I understand this correctly, Atlanta Grill Company is now the sole distributor for rock box here in the United States. That will be the only place here in the U.S. you can get one of those. And keep your eyes open with rock box. That new, Jeff, if you're still with us, what's that new oven that Rockbox has got? That Gosney, it's called the Gosney Dome. Is that what it's called? They've got a new oven coming out. It's not like a Rockbox. It's not a tabletop sort of setup. It's a standalone. And if I understand correctly, you can get it in wood-fired options or wood and gas. It's called the Gosney Dome. Have a look at that. That's coming. I'm not sure exactly when that's coming out. It was supposed to land this year, but I think COVID has put a nix on a lot of new products being released, and I think this is one of them, because I'm pretty confident that this Gosney Dome was supposed to hit this past summer, and it just didn't happen. But yeah, that's going to be a really good setup. Once again, tonight's whiskey is Highland Park. This is a 12-year-old Scotch whiskey, single malt, called Viking Honor, and that suggestion was brought to us by one of our fans here. His name Alan Brown. who lives on the island where that's made. So, alrighty. I'm in good shape. We're at the hour mark, which is where I like to be. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. I don't know if we'll have a guest next week or not. I'm probably going to try to have a guest next week. I've got one that I know has committed, but I haven't set a time yet. I got another one I'm pushing, so we'll see what we can do. I've got a couple of people that I'd like to have on here. If you would like to be on here with me sometime, let me know. It's always more fun to have discussions about grilling and cooking with at least one other person. That way you don't have to listen to me drone on the whole time. So guys, have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week.